Welcome back to Recording Rock Vocals with Andrew Wade here on Creative Live.
That's right.
This is a segment 4, and we are going to jump in of day 2. I basically wanted to do some thank yous before we get started, Andrew. Yeah. I'm excited about this next segment. We have a lot of people to thank. There's a lot of moving parts that make a workshop like this come together, and we just want to give thanks. So we have a lot of sponsors that we'd like to thank. We would like to thank Guitar Center, who are just down the street from us, and they have loaned us gear as well as a vast. We would like to thank Josh Estock at Sweetwater, and also Sleeping Giant, as well as Andrew Glover at Sound Temple. So all these people came together to make this possible. So shout out to all of them. And also, just so you know, if you guys would give these people social media love, this helps bring more workshops to us. So send them a tweet or go to their Facebook page and give them a like. Tell them that you've been watching Andrew Wade's workshop here on Creative Live, and so that they will just keep helping us out. So thanks to all you guys very much. Also, thanks to the Creative Live audience. That's all of you people from around the globe that are watching and participating in this course. We would not be here without you, so we always like to give thanks. You guys have been awesome in the last 2 days, asking incredible questions and been digging all your comments online. So thanks a lot to all of you. We'd also like to thank the Creative Live crew, all the people behind the scenes that are making this happen. Thanks to Regina in the chat room. Thanks to our PAs and all the guys in the sound booth and the audio guys and everyone that set this up and made this possible. Creative Live. Thanks to the Creative Live in-studio audience. Thanks to all of you guys. You guys have been great, asking great singers, great questions.
Oh, except Cameron, he didn't do it.
You guys are always welcome to come back and be part of the in-studio audience. Once you guys are, in the Creative Live house, you are part of the family. And just keep your eye on the music channel, just the music and audio channel. And if you guys see a course that comes up and you want to be part of it, just email the producer and you guys are in, okay? So just keep that in mind. And that means all of you guys out there that want to come and be part of this experience, come be part of the fam. All right, thank you to Jeremy McKinnon. And Jeremy is from A Day to Remember, and he has sung vocals today and yesterday, I think, right? Yeah, both days.
Yeah, vocals in the, it's all one song, but we did use them
yesterday as well. Yeah. Okay, well, Jeremy's been in our chat room, so big shout out to Jeremy. Thanks for joining us.
Cool.
Also, thanks to Jessica Lancaster. She was our talent yesterday, did our vocals, and we've been mixing her stuff today. So thanks a lot to Jessica as well. She was awesome. Also, thanks to Tommy Green, who was screaming for us yesterday, and he's part of Sleeping Giant. He was a funny guy. We liked him. So thanks a lot to Tommy Green for being part of the studio and also participating with the music. And last but not least, we would like to thank Mr. Andrew Wade from coming all the way across the entire country to be part of the Creative Live community and to bring us another workshop. And I hope before you leave, you schedule your next workshop, because I like you.
Thank you.
Yes,
so
thank you.
Thank you, Andrew, very much. All right, and with that, I think we're ready to keep moving on into our final segment.
Yes, the segment you guys have been waiting for. Still have some intro because I want you guys to get a grasp on the major mixing tools that I use for mixing vocals. I'm just going to continue here from where we were. De-essers, I use these a lot. It's a de-esser isn't actually something special, but it is it's a compressor designed to control the high-end frequencies, usually where your vocalist will have the S sound, and sometimes that on certain vocalists, I always use a de-esser. But on certain vocalists, it's extreme, so you absolutely have to tame it down somehow. So a de-esser is just a compressor that compresses the high-end frequencies. Some of them vary from like 6K to all the way to 20K. It just depends on the settings and the compressor and the de-esser and stuff. So it tames the S sound. How does it work? It works the same as a compressor. I kind of went through that. So when do you use it? I always use it. Always, always, always. I want to show you a really cool technique with a de-esser today. To me, it's not just to get rid of the de-essing sound. It does a little bit more than that, and we'll get into that. Other major mixing tools, reverb and delay. We talked about that a little bit in the last thing. They can help a vocal blend in with the mix and adds ambience and a stereo feel. Sometimes a vocal, is just, it's one vocal, it's mono. Sometimes you want to add a little bit more interest there, so you can add these effects. I probably always use at least a little bit of reverb, and I don't always use delay, but I use it a lot, maybe 60% of the time on the main vocals. And then miscellaneous effects, we had a whole section on effects, and they can spice up an otherwise boring vocal. Problems. I just want to talk about a few of these problems. I'm going to try to go over all of these. Hold on a second. Okay, so I'm going to try to go over these. Vocals not cutting enough. These are really common problems. Vocals not airy enough, too muffled sounding. Vocals not punchy sounding, too soft. Screams, cleans not full enough, not enough body. Screams too airy. Vocals sound too separated from the song. Vocals sound jumbled, can't understand the words. What's your problem? So that's what I want to know. I want to ask some of you guys, before we actually dive into this, what are some problems that you guys have had with vocals? And I know that you've had some problems while mixing.
Actually, the cut thing is specifically a problem that I have, getting vocals that are like usually kind of like a male vocal that's kind of low, that's probably got a lot of bass, and then it's also sitting in a dense mix with a lot of bass as well. So I guess kind of getting that to separate from the rest of the mix without seeming too thin, or just kind of getting some glue going, I guess.
Right, just get it in the right spot in the mix. We were talking about some other things during the break.
Yeah, just when you have a multitude of singers in a band, sometimes even having male and female simultaneously as lead singers, or at least 2 or 3 different members who take on a lead, even in kind of operatic situations where you're trying to still tell a story. It's kind of interesting problem to decide where to put everything in the stereo field and still keep the main vocal line centered. But if you have 2 people singing simultaneously, that can be a jumbled mess.
Yeah.
And keeping the clarity and definition still there.
Yeah. We have a complex vocal arrangement. I'm gonna try to highlight that a little bit.
Yeah, problem I usually run into is when people over accentuate like a specific word, and it kind of, it's obviously louder than the other vocal lines, like kind of how to, I guess the main question is how to even everything out, in the mix, just vocally. So.
Okay, cool. What I'm gonna try to do, this is gonna be a huge participation thing for you guys, because it's hard to make fake problems here. So there are gonna be problems like that you encounter. We may not even be able to show you how to fix certain things, but I do want to talk about all these things specifically. If I'm not able to demonstrate this for you, I want you guys to keep in mind like what your problems are, and the people in the chat rooms. I want you guys. This is where your questions have been leading up to. So everybody has problems when it comes to mixing vocals. I made this for you guys. It's just a little reference EQ. And the first thing we're going to kind of talk about here is EQ when we actually get into the song, and we will in just a second. So this is something that you should definitely memorize and kind of take note of here. We have, I think this is pretty clear, but if you don't understand what this means, let's look over at the where it says air. The blue ball, that's kind of the range that you would boost on an EQ to get more of an airy sound in your vocal. the presence, that's where you get a little more presence. The yellow is a little more cutting, mid-rangey a little bit, but sometimes that's pleasing for certain screamers. That's like what they're absolutely lacking. Body, thickness, right there in that range. So as long as you kind of understand what these graphs are, and on the bottom, if you take away in these spots, it makes it darker or muddier, makes it blend a little bit more, or makes it thinner. And then we just have the high pass filter on there, and it takes away rumbles and also adds clarity. And I'm actually going to show you how that adds clarity, which sounds like bizarre. How does that thing down there add any clarity to the vocals? But I will show you that. So, all right, we're going to start by mixing Jessica's vocals from yesterday, Take It Slow. So I want to I'm going to take this stuff off. I'm just going to start from nothing. No presets here, no cheating, no nothing. All right, let's just get into it. Now, here's the thing. I haven't spent time mixing this at all. This vocal is brand new to me. Obviously, we just tracked it yesterday. So I have no idea what to expect right now. And I want you guys to understand that a lot of this stuff is trial and error. And I will show you, I'll say the kinds of things that I'm hearing, the problems, and also the solution to these problems that I hear. So we have a track. This is actually pretty basic because it's just an acoustic guitar and a vocal. So that should be a simple thing to mix for most people. But we do have, when you were talking about the male-female vocal, we have a part in here where I actually do come in, and I'm gonna try to mix that in there with her and show you guys how to do that properly. So I just want you guys to take note. The key demonstrations for this part will be how to work with the, I say clean, delicate vocal, like quieter, softer vocals. Even in heavy music, sometimes we'll have parts where it's just really quiet. So I thought this, this covers all angles. How to treat a single vocal, because that can be tricky. Backups versus duet. This is exactly what you're talking about. It's like, this is kind of, this brings me back to, what do you want the vocals to do? Is it a duet, or is it just a backup vocal? And that's kind of that's a creative decision that you have to decide, and I'll show you how to mix for both of those. Triple chorus vocals, how to make that sound good. I don't have a triple of her, so I'll just do double chorus vocals, but that's the same. It'll basically be the same thing. And then we'll get into the ambient complex vocal arrangement here. Okay, so let's hear what we got. This is straight off the board.
I'll trade this money for some time. I'll take whatever I can find. It's like digging for gold. It's getting old. My woes are only in my mind. Like coals, they burn a hole inside. I got left.
So when you hear that, it's, to me, I hear it's kind of buried in the mix. It's kind of muddy sounding. There's no clarity. Sometimes it's hard to understand what words she's saying. Now that's even with compression on it. So that's the kind of compression that I was doing here. It's not making a final polished sound. All it did was control the dynamics as they were going into Pro Tools. So this is straight off the board with just we have 4.5. Oh, just so you guys can simulate this if you want. I got this question on Twitter and I thought it was a great question. Someone said, what if we don't have this equipment and we're just recording straight into an interface? I thought that was an awesome question. So what you would do, if you do kind of want to copy the settings that we have here, virtually that would work and it would do the same thing. So just so you guys know, the only thing that we have going on the EQ from the vocals going in is about 4.5, not about, exactly 4.5, minus 4.5 dB at 70 hertz. And I believe that is a bell curve on this EQ. Let me show you what a bell curve looks like.
And that's essentially just your low cut on the way into the system.
Yeah, that's what it is. But it's not totally cutting it. And I just want people to, I don't want people to think that there's a super unfair advantage or anything here. So we got 70 hertz, and it's, oops, that's a different button. It's basically like this. The Q is probably somewhere about here. So this is what is actually happening over here. This EQ might have like a little bit of different sound, but it's nothing extreme, and I'm just trying to demonstrate that. You could do this on your own, but that's just to control the sound going in. Now, if you do want to copy this, this is going to be the first thing on your signal chain. Before the compressor, before EQ, well, it is an EQ, before anything else, this would be first. And then second, we have, I think this is a copy of an 1176. These are our exact settings. If you care to know, we'll just literally copy this exactly. Yeah, that doesn't really matter, but unless this was for screaming. But anyway, so this is basically the settings. It wasn't far from this. I know the attack and release weren't different. The input and output might be a little bit different, but that's it. So the ratio's at 12. It's pretty aggressive, but if you're not compressing, if your threshold isn't that high, then it's not really pumping very hard. So anyway, just so nobody thinks we're at some kind of unfair advantage, those are the kind of settings that you would put first. I don't even think it's necessary, but I'm just saying that for everyone else. Okay.
I'll trade this money for some time.
Now, I did hear, let's do this. Let's actually get into some really, if we can, hold on, I don't want to make any promises here. Is there, I usually use, there's a crackling, I hear this crackling, and it came from the equipment when we're recording, and hey, sometimes that might happen. So you could use something to eliminate that. What is this? Never used this.
This money for some time.
Didn't work. Okay. Anyway, there absolutely are. Now, this is not a common problem that you'll get into, but I will just say, mixing this is really distracting, having these clicks here. So if you have some kind of thing like this, Waves does make a plugin called X-Click that would most likely get rid of that. So if you do have any weird problems with your track like that, get rid of it right away. We can't do that. I kind of wish we could, but that's just how it goes sometimes. Anyway, so let's start off with compression. Okay, now the compression that I actually use a lot, Gasp, is the one that comes with Pro Tools. I've noticed that this compressor has a very quick response. You can go the attack. You can make very short. You can do cool things with these sidechain filters. I don't think we'll actually get into that, but it does kind of it has a mid-ranginess to it. And so sometimes you might actually have to EQ that mid-ranginess out of it later. I don't know if I do this because of, and I'm just going to be honest here, I don't know if I do this because it's super simple or if I do actually like it better. But I'm very comfortable with it, and I have gotten great results with it. So I'm just going to put that out there first, just being honest. Okay, so this is also a really excellent one, the SSL compressor. This one is excellent. This is probably the one that a lot of people have seen. Everyone can use this because you don't have to be on Pro Tools to use this. So I think I'm going to try to mix with this. This is definitely not as an aggressive compressor as the Pro Tools compressor. So for this song, it should work awesome. Like, I'd probably use the one made with Pro Tools for screams specifically, and we'll get into that in a sec. Okay, so what do we got first?
I'll trade this money for some time.
Okay, so this is a really quiet song, like I said. Obviously, you don't want to overcompress this. It's so easy to overcompress things. So whenever I'm doing,
I'll trade this money for some time.
whenever I'm doing a single vocal, let's see if I can explain this in a way that's easy to understand. When I'm doing a single vocal and then it comes into a chorus of a bunch of vocals, what happens is in the chorus, obviously it jumps up in volume. And I think that was a question that you kind of had yesterday. And what I like to do is it's usually at least two compressors. Well, one compressor for the actual vocal track, and then another compressor on the vocal bus. So I'll throw that up. I'll deactivate it in a second. But what happens here is everything is getting compressed twice, but the things that are louder are getting compressed more. And it is controlling it a little bit more, but it is being compressed more. So you have to keep that in mind when you have like a verse with a single vocal, and then you have the chorus with double or triple vocals. It's going to sound different all of a sudden. I kind of like the difference that it makes when it actually gets to that part. But I just wanted to point that out because I don't want you guys to think this is the only compressor that I have on these vocals. And I know I'm not the only one that does this technique, in case you guys are wondering. This is like a pretty common thing.
I'll trade this money for some time. I'll take whatever I can find. It's like digging for gold. It's getting old. My words are only in my mind. Like coals, they burn a hole inside. I gotta let them go.
So it's controlling it pretty well. It's gotten a little bit bolder here. Now this is a trick that I do. Usually on the individual vocal tracks, I don't put much. I will maybe put the compressor just on that. A lot of the other things that I'm gonna do are just on the vocal bus. I don't know if other people do it like this, but this is what I do, and this is what we're gonna learn today. I put the de-esser on the vocal bus because, tell me we have this installed. Yes, thank goodness. The Waves de-esser is my favorite de-esser. There's one that comes with Pro Tools. I'm actually not a big fan of it. It's caused some weird problems. But it's easier to go overboard with a de-esser. So let's just get into this.
I'll trade this money for some time. I'll take whatever I can find. It's like digging.
Now, okay, so since I kind of already know how this whole thing is going to play out. So I'm just going to actually throw. It sounds muffled. So the way to take care of something that sounds muffled, if it didn't already sound bright enough going in, is EQ. And I know that this has to be EQ'd. So we're going to kind of flip back and forth between the EQ and the de-esser. And that's how I kind of get my the final result. So what I like to do is I like to overdo it and then back off. And I'll demonstrate this for a second.
I'll trade this money for some time. I'll take whatever.
Oh, okay, so this is my favorite setting whenever I'm using high end on vocals. This high mid frequency right here, this channel is the magic channel and this is the magic button. Honestly, take that note down. Magic channel, magic button right there. I don't really mess with this that much. That's just the cue there, but I do mess with this, what frequency it's affecting, and obviously the gain of the frequency. So I'm just going to overdo it so it sounds really brittle and bright, so I can really hone in on the presence of her voice. That's what you want to do. You want to find where her voice naturally has a presence, and that's what we're searching for right now. So you don't want to just throw high end, because different people have high end in different registers of their voice. So you want to actually, it's like you're tuning in to the presence of their voice, and you're finding that.
I'll trade this money for some time. I'll take whatever I can find. It's like digging for gold. It's getting old. My woes are only in my mind. Like coals, they burn a hole inside. I gotta let them go. It's getting old.
Okay, so I'm hearing, it might be hard for you guys to hear these subtleties, and this is why your mixing environment is actually really important too. I'm finding it around, it's like 3.4 kilohertz is kind of where I'm finding her presence for her particular vocal. And that is just a little bit lower than what we have on the presence for here. So that's about what we have there. Oh.
I'll trade.
Okay, well, that's kind of weird.
I'll trade this money for some time. I'll take whatever I can find.
Okay, so, and while I'm doing this, I like to bounce back and forth to make sure that each plugin is making a difference and making the proper difference. So I'm turning off the de-esser to make sure that it's actually making a change that I'm happy with. That's really important. Sometimes you'll throw, it's like, the S's are too loud. Well, just throw a de-esser on it, and it's being affected, but is it exactly how you want it to sound? So it's important to actually turn that off, and sometimes you might actually like something better, and so you got to reevaluate what you actually just did.
I'll trade this money for some time.
I don't know if I maybe should restart Pro Tools. There is not much going on here, really. Also, just so you know, these SSL plugins don't take up, they don't take up much CPU at all, if anybody was concerned about that.
Andrew, you're running Netflix behind Pro Tools here. Is that what's going on?
I'm at 6%.
I'll trade this money for some time. I'll take whatever I can find. It's like digging for gold.
Okay, so those S's. Now, to me, this is a little bit unfortunate the way this is set up here in the studio. When I'm mixing vocals, I like to crank it, because whenever I am using the de-esser, I like to get it to a point where it's not, where the S's don't hurt my ears. I know that is a really weird technique, but I like to crank my monitors and just use the de-esser so that it sounds a little more pleasant. And then when I turn it down, make sure the clarity is still there, and find a balance between it being loud and quiet. I can't demonstrate this because these speakers are very, very quiet. So it's a little bit difficult to even do this technique that I normally do. So let's go back to the de-esser really quick.
I'll trade this money for some time. I'll take whatever I can find. It's like digging for gold. It's getting old. My woes are only in my mind.
Cool. Yeah, so I had a little too much de-essing on there. And I also noticed
Like coals they burn a hole,
there's a little
they burn.
low end there. I actually wanted to demonstrate how to get rid of these plosions after the fact, if they do get through the pop filter.
Bye.
That's another effect that you can do. Okay, so, man, this is, oh.
Like coals they burn a hole inside.
So that plosion is gone, if you can
Like
hear.
coals they burn a hole, like coals they burn a hole inside. I gotta let 'em go.
Okay, so now talking about the verse chorus, the verse versus the chorus, compression-wise, I like the way this verse is sounding. It's this track doesn't have a lot. It's just the acoustic and the vocal. So I like the vocal to be very dynamic. So I don't like to overcompress it. However, when the other vocals join in, and I'm just going to copy and paste this SSL EQ to the double vocal.
We weren't meant to be, we weren't meant to be alone. Take it slow, 'cause you'll miss the years as they go by. Take it.
Hardware buffer size.
We weren't meant to be alone. Take it slow, 'cause you'll miss the years as they go by.
Okay, so now in this chorus, I'm missing, now that I'm hearing other instruments, I'm missing those S's. It's still a little too quiet here.
Take it slow, 'cause you'll miss the years as they go by. Take it slow, 'cause the race to the end is a beautiful fight. Oh my, you'll never know about the vibe.
Cool, and that part wasn't vocal lined. It normally would be vocal lined, but
Hey, Andrew, I'm wondering, the Suro 1968 mentions that their vocals sound weak compared with the rest of the mix, and even though they sound great when heard soloed, what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing when you're doing these kinds of effects, you're really bringing it out of the mix. Is this one of the main things, or just one of the first things you do in a series of getting that to come really out up at the top?
yeah, whenever, like what we're doing right now. Just had a phone ringing in here.
It's good.
Well, I think that question will probably be answered a little bit better. And are you able to talk back to them?
Absolutely.
Don't sass them, but just
Okay.
respond.
Is it like a heavier song that they're?
Yeah, let me check and see. It seems like it was kind of a general question, but I'll ask and get exactly.
I think it might have to do a lot with the actual genre and how you're mixing.
Let's
other
ask Suro
tracks.
on air. Suro, why don't you get in the chat and tell us the answer to that question?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't need to type it.
Yeah.
Take it slow, 'cause the race to the end is a futile fight. Oh my, you'll never know about the goodbye.
Okay, cool. So
Take it slow, 'cause you'll miss the years as they go by.
So the compression here is really light on the actual vocal bus. It's only compressing about 4 or 5 dB in the
I'll
chorus.
trade this money for some time.
Here on the verses, it's only compressing it maybe 1 or 2 dB. So that's kind of maybe was that a problem that you were having with vocals when it went from verse to chorus? Is that exactly what it was? Okay, cool. He said yes. All right.
Affirmation is good.
I'll trade this money for some time.
Now, it obviously works a lot better when you're familiar with your monitors. I'm not super familiar with these monitors, so I'm just trying to mix the best I can on these. But to me, I'm hearing that the vocals are just the tiniest bit too brittle. So I'm just bringing that high-end presence down.
Andrew, and that response came back from Suro on the chat rooms that it's EDM, basically, that they're trying to mix these vocals into.
Oh, wow. That could be anything. EDM is actually not something that I know about mixing, to be completely honest. I don't really mix that. That problem might start at the mix of their music. It's easy with a lot of the synths that
Suro says lots of drum beats and synths.
drum beats and synth. Yeah, when you have a lot of synths, there's like a lot of high end that comes with a lot of the synths. And if you're not controlling that, the vocal is going to have a hard time like competing because the vocal has a lot of like high end and presence, and that's kind of where it cuts through.
Yeah, tell them when you go to adjust it though, it's better to tweak the synth patch than to try to EQ it, because you have, remember, when you're dealing with synths, you have complete control over the audio spectrum.
Right.
And it's better to tweak the patch
Instead
than
of to EQ it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
My experience.
Yeah, I've actually done that before, where like if you are working with synths. And just so you guys know, he works with electronic music a lot, and he knows his stuff on that. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm gonna assume that that's probably what the problem was.
Great.
I'll trade this money for some time.
Okay, so I mixed this. I like to turn the analog off, just so you guys know. I feel like that just adds hiss, and that's it. If it does anything else, that's beyond me. Moving on. So I noticed that the vocals sounded a little bit brittle, so I turned the presence down. Now I'm noticing that they sound almost a little bit too boxy. Now I think the quickest thing that anybody would do is turn down the frequencies where it's boxy, but I say nay to that. I would put on a high-pass filter, because the high-pass filter can take care of a lot of that. So you remember when I was talking about how does this add clarity? This is what we're going to do. We're going to actually turn on the high-pass filter. And some people like to have it completely up and then take it down so the vocal sounds full enough. Some people like to start from the bottom and go up from there. I like to start from the bottom.
I'll trade this money for some time. I'll take whatever I can find. It's like digging for gold. It's getting old. My woes are only in my mind.
Okay, so to me that cleared the boxiness right up, and that's only up at 100 hertz. Now, I don't actually know why that works exactly like that, but it does, and it works great. It's so easy to like EQ out what you think you hear, but when you know these little tricks like getting rid of the boxiness by using a high-pass filter, if you notice, it almost is also adding clarity in the mid-range and the high-end. I don't know if it's because of this plugin or what, but whenever I do it, I use this and I get the best results. So maybe there's some magic going on in this plugin, I don't know, but this is huge for me. And when I figured this out, I use this on everything, including screams.
I'm pretty sure that everybody that has come in here to teach some sort of class always seems to love that SSL EQ.
Yeah, it's
like,
great.
Everybody, it seems.
Yeah, I'm very glad that it has been invented. Okay, so I'm really liking the way this sounds. I mean, Jessica's she's a great singer. She has a good voice. It's not much of a challenge. This is a simple song. So let's just give it one more listen here.
I'll trade this money for some time. I'll take whatever I can find. It's like digging for gold. It's getting old. My woes are only in my mind.
Now what I'm hearing is kind of her voice sounds good, but I'm not liking how much it stands out from everything. I could turn it down, but I might like the volume of it. So another solution to that is to actually use reverb, because reverb kind of blends it in with everything else. And like we were talking about earlier with reverb, you don't want to start like with the reverb all the way at 100%, because that might throw you off, and you might think that sounds cool, but when you're actually trying to mix something that's like a clear vocal, popular music, you just want to use it for the reason that you're using it, which is, in this case, to help blend it with the guitar and whatever other tracks are coming in. So let's listen to this.
I'll trade this money for some time. I'll take whatever I can find. It's like digging for gold. It's getting old. My words are only in my mind. Like coals, they burn a hole inside. I gotta let them go. It's getting old. We weren't meant to be.
Okay, I don't usually use this version of the plugin. It was super quiet because it was turned down by like 4 dB when you put the plugin on. It's just a little bizarre.
I'll trade this money for some time. I'll trade this money for some time. I'll take whatever I can find. It's like digging for gold. Take it slow, 'cause you'll miss the years as they go by. Take it slow, 'cause I race to the end.
Okay, just so you guys know what I'm doing here, I noticed I kind of wanted a little more compression, and then when the chorus kicked in, it was just not, it was too much compression. But this double is way louder than I would have it anyway, so let's just put that down about 8 dB, see what we think about that.
Take it slow, 'cause you'll miss the years as they go by. Take it slow, 'cause I race to the end.
Oops.
Take it slow, 'cause you'll miss the years as they go by. Take it slow, 'cause a race to the end is a futile fight. Oh my, you'll never know final goodbye.
Cool, cool. So we also have, I had some other vocals in here. The male vocals that I also added. Now this could sound like a duet easily if we wanted to, because Jessica and I both sang quite different cadences in this. So sometimes when you're doing duets, that's kind of cool to actually do that. And you don't use vocal line for that. Especially during a duet, you wouldn't use vocal line, because then that just literally sounds like one person, but you want it to sound like two people. So you don't want it to be absolutely perfect on top of each other.
We weren't meant to be, we weren't meant to be alone. Take it slow, 'cause you'll miss the years as they go by. Take it slow, 'cause the race to the end is a futile fight. Oh my, you'll never know final goodbye. We weren't meant to be, we weren't meant to be alone. Take it slow, 'cause you'll miss the years as they go by.
Okay, so if this was a duet, I would actually not have these vocals going to the same bus. Just so you guys know, right now these vocals are going to the same bus. I'm gonna make another bus for it really quick. Do we have any questions?
Absolutely, we do. First off, getting a few comments, but Intersweat has definitely mentioned that this sounds like ABBA, which is awesome because this was just produced here in the studio, right? Yesterday, essentially, and today?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
That's great.
That's cool.
Some of the questions also are kind of about the mix process now. I think people are responding to what's your problem, which is a good thing, people. Keep them coming. Suro1968 is again asking, do you EQ just by, or with your ear, or do you use a graphic analyzer as well?
No, with my ear. It's easy to get caught up in those things, man. Like when you're trying to go, when you're using your graphic EQ, like an analyzer or something, you're using your eyes. You're not using your ears at all. It doesn't matter what it says. Because if it doesn't sound good, it doesn't sound good, you know? So, and some people will have a struggle. They'll think, well, I think this sounds good, but, you know, on this analyzer, it looks like it's wrong. So I should probably change it. Totally wrong way to think about it. What sounds good? You know, you know, it's important to have good studio monitors. Check it on that, check it in your car, check it on, you know, on your the speaker on your phone, check it on your laptop, whatever you have at your disposal, check it on all those things. That is way smarter than using some kind of, you know, spectral analyzer or something like that.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned the having a good set of speakers. Drew, our host from yesterday, I think you all met him. He was on our chat rooms and was actually wondering what speakers you actually have inside of your studio.
Dynaudio BM5As.
Beautiful.
Also, I have a sub, which I highly, highly recommend. I don't know how you can mix without a sub. I'm sure a lot of people mix without it, but the BM9, I think. It's like a matching sub that goes with the monitors. And especially if you're mixing anything with a lot of low end. I mean, there's a lot that goes on in the low end that is just like missing from these speakers. There's a whole range there's a world of sound that is happening that we cannot even monitor. So I highly recommend getting a sub. And yeah, it's the BM5As. I think I also have used the BM6As or something like that. They have a higher thing. They're good too.
Do you want to take another question? We want to keep moving on.
I'm good.
Cool.
I got this set up.
All right.
We weren't meant to be.
Okay, so just in case you guys are wondering what I just did, the backup vocals that I had, I'm going to kind of mix this like a duet so you guys can see how this should sound. It was kind of mixing with her vocal and compressing with her vocal, kind of making her disappear a little bit, and I want us to both be equal. And when you have a male voice and a female voice, it's really easy to get this right if you know what you're doing. So I literally copied the exact same effects that I put on her voice just on mine, and then I'm just going to go through each one and tweak it to what I like. And just so you guys know, if you are curious, I'll use on my signal chain for my vocals, it's usually like this. It will have the compressor, then maybe an EQ, or like any special effects on the actual channel. Usually lo-fi effects will be before the compressor. And then on the bus that they're going to, it's a de-esser, an EQ, and then more compression and reverb or delay.
On the signal chain for any given singular vocal track, would you usually go EQ or compression first?
Down here, not on the bus?
Yeah, not on the bus, like on an individual track.
Yeah, EQ, if you're doing something really extreme, it like has to be before the EQ. If you're doing something that's subtle, it can kind of go either way. I haven't noticed a huge difference if it's like a subtle change, but if you're doing something really extreme, put that thing before the compressor.
Like crazy low end or something like that, messing with the compressor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're trying to add tons of low end to it, well, actually, it also depends. There are different situations for that. Because if I wanted a vocal, say, to sound more bassy, like if I'm doing voiceover work, like for a movie trailer, for instance, I would never put even though the bass might be extreme, I would never put it before the compressor because I want it to be kind of loud and wild. And if you want it to be loud and wild in a situation like that,
you don't want it compressed?
You would put it afterwards.
Okay, because you don't want the compressor crushing all of that.
Yeah, because like if you've
end.
ever put a compressor like on a guitar, like when you're doing really low stuff, it totally kills the low end. And you kind of want the low end to be a little bit wild. So it's the same kind of thing with compression. But if you're doing, let's say, a lo-fi effect, or if you want it to sound like a telephone or something super mid-rangey, that needs to be before the compressor. For whatever reason, it works better that way. It's really case specific. If you think of any other scenarios, bring it up. If any of you guys think of any scenarios, bring it up, and I'll try to answer it because there's so many things that happen in mixing, and it's hard to predict like what you guys are looking for, and that's why I want questions. Are there any questions there that keep being asked by anyone? Like a repeating question or anything?
Not particularly repeating questions. I think a lot of the people are actually asking, they're really coming up with their own situations and offering them to the table. So
Okay.
if you have a moment where you want to say, hey, let's just,
Okay,
what would Andrew Wade do? We can go through that basically.
We will do that. We will do
Awesome.
that. Did you? Okay, cool.
We weren't meant to.
That's so strange.
We weren't meant to be. We weren't meant to be alone. Take it slow, 'cause you'll miss the years as they go by. Oh my.
This is so weird. I think I'm gonna restart Pro Tools. I'm not sure. And it's on a Mac, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just, yeah.
Well, we got a second.
Yeah.
I'll ask you. So for the individual signal chain for a track, like where would you see for an aggressive vocal? Where would you see yourself putting like the ratio and threshold, and then also in relation to the vocal bus at the end? Like where would each of those sit?
I'm so sorry. A bunch of things came up. Please repeat that.
Okay, so like for an aggressive vocal, where would you generally see yourself setting compressor settings for the individual and then for the bus at the end? So like where is most of the smashing going on, and then afterwards?
Most of the smashing is going on whenever it's an aggressive vocal, probably right on the track, like not on the bus.
Okay.
The bus, the way I think of this, that's a good question. The way I think of this when I'm doing more aggressive music is, and that's the most extreme case,
Hey, Andrew, one of our good friends on the chat rooms, Nick Squilante, also mentions that if you're still having that CPU issue, setting up the buffer in Setup Playback Engine, if it's not already cranked past 90%, that may be what is also happening on the test computer, essentially.
okay.
So if you want to change the configurations of the system, then
That's kind of weird. This is fine. So a lot of the smashing that's going on is like right on the actual track. And then I like to think of the bus as like controlling all the... So the one on the actual thing is like a fast compressor usually. And then the one that's on the bus is kind of controlling all the vocals that are going on. It's kind of just keeping it from sounding insane when like tons of vocals come in. It kind of just pushes them all together.
And what would the settings look like particularly aggressive settings on the vocal bus?
I would usually have a pretty. This is really weird. Maybe I'll try to skip to the aggressive vocal. The compression settings are usually pretty extreme on that too. Like I almost like to set the compression in Pro Tools. I usually use the Pro Tools compressor specifically for that. And I like to have it really fast, almost so that it sounds like it's distorting. So it'll be maybe at like 1 millisecond or something sometimes. And then to actually add some of the punchiness back, I'll set the compressor a little bit, the attack on the compressor a little bit slower on the actual bus of it. So when you do like say a word, it's not just like totally flattening it completely. It's like it allows the beginning of the word to come through and kind of punch. And that's what I was talking about when I was talking about punchy vocals. And I had to open, something happened with the last session. So I'm just going into this one because this has a lot of other situations that I definitely want to make sure that we get to. So let's actually do that. Let's talk about this screaming stuff right now. So this is my favorite compressor for heavy vocals because of how low. Look at this. The attack is at 1.7 milliseconds. That's super, super fast. And the ratio is like a limiter. It's at 1,000. I don't know if that's because of the stuff we were doing. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm basically on the actual track, it's limiting it and kind of clipping it to make it sound. So I usually have the release pretty quick. Let us turn beneath the waves! So it's really, let us turn! It's not compressing it a lot, but what it is doing is really affecting it a lot. So in the other song, so that's what I was saying, the way to mix vocals is, what are you trying to do with the song? And the last song, it's like, I want it to be dynamic. I want it to breathe, you know? This one, it's like, he's tossing and turning beneath the waves. He can't breathe, you know? I'm just kidding. But so for these, I do kind of want it like distorted and nasty. And this isn't really distortion, but it's kind of, it does make that happen.
Do you use a lot of parallel compression on vocals, or is it mostly just like straight up wet signal?
I think it's like always just the straight up, this plugin doesn't have, not to my knowledge, a way that you can like blend like that. So yeah, it's always just the compression. I actually haven't messed much with parallel compression at all. But I'm getting results that I'm really excited about with this compressor, especially with heavier vocals. So let's look at what we have here. Let us turn beneath the waves, a silent victim of the depths. So these vocals, cast aside, I'm scrambling. This is how I like to think of it. Every vocal has, there is a breathiness and a presence and an airiness to every vocal, and it's in there and you gotta find it, and I like to find it, and when I can actually finally bring it out, that's when I feel happy. So sometimes people will just throw a ton of EQ on there to boost the airiness, and then those S's, obviously here's the de-esser, those S's are super loud, so they kind of try to find a middle ground, but I don't want to do that. I want it to be as like, not as bright and airy as possible, but pretty extremely bright and airy, just so so I can get that stuff cutting through the mix easily. Cast aside! So this is the compressor that's on the actual vocals. And like what we were talking about, the attack is about 10 milliseconds to let the beginning of those words really punch through whenever they get in there. It's not being not being compressed a lot, but the ratio isn't very aggressive there. It's only at 3. And I usually have the release, between like 80 and 50 or something like that. Cast aside, I'm scrambling to catch mine. So we got the de-esser. So we got the compressor on there on the original track. We have the de-esser on the bus. Then the compressor with a little bit less, like slower attack and not as aggressive ratio. And here we have, as you recall, I was talking about how those compressors are mid-rangey. I kind of had to bring this down a little bit because of how it made it sound. Cast aside, I'm scrambling to catch mine. I can't find my way out. When I turn it off, you can really like hear that kind of honky, nasally sound. Cast aside, I'm scrambling to... Just turning that on like puts it in the mix too. Like the other one, it's like popping out of the mix in a weird way. And especially these heavier songs, you got a lot of bass and you got a lot of like high end. So whenever you do have something that's really mid-rangey, it stands out in a not so great way. So this is only about 4 dB mid-range being cut out. And then on top of that, I have the high pass on the vocals at 138. It's pretty high. I know we were talking about that with screaming. So even on lows, I would still cut out. Even on low screams, I would still cut out the low end, which sounds like the opposite of what you should do. But if you add that low end, it's gonna just muddy everything up. My thoughts turn beneath the waves, a silent victim of the depths. Cast aside, I'm scrambling to catch mine. I can't find my way out. So condescending. So Jeremy's voice, as you can hear, has a lot of presence to it. I have this at 0.56 turned up, like in the presence, and that's at about 3.5 kilohertz there. So Jeremy's voice is naturally pretty clear, and the microphone that we use is really clear. It's that Peluso. It sounds phenomenal. I love that thing. And he's been tracking for years, so he knows just how to get the right sound when he's tracking. So let's go to the chorus, actually, because these vocals sound pretty insane without anything on them. Before I move to this, questions about like screaming and stuff? I feel like this is a big one for people. What do you guys, any specifics there?
Why don't we give people just a minute to type in their questions about specifically screaming, just because, unless you have one at the
we
ready.
got a few questions about compression, but not specifically about screaming. Well, I'm sure we have some about screaming. There are a lot of questions right now, obviously.
A lot.
It's the mixing section.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to answer a few or save it off?
Yeah, sure. I don't want to go too fast for people because as I'm doing these certain things, I kind of want to just stay focused on like the screaming or whatever before I kind of move on to this other.
All right, well, let's give people just a minute to put in questions specifically about screaming in the chat room.
Okay.
Johnny's got a question.
I know, especially in heavy music, whether it's screaming or even just like a gritty, aggressive vocal, you have a lot of mid-range tones that are coming out of the guitar. So I noticed that by scooping the mid-range out of the vocal, it actually seemed to make the guitars stand out a little bit more.
Yeah.
As well. Is there certain frequencies that you find commonly fight between guitars and vocals?
Guitars and vocals. I feel like if you have, and like I said at the beginning of this, like if you have a good mix to start with, and that's kind of where you should start, not the vocal. The vocal shouldn't have that hard of a time sitting in the mix. If you are kind of competing in the mid-range area for vocals, that's a good question, but it's really case specific. It could be around 1 hertz is, I think, where like a lot of guitar clarity and vocals kind of hit at like 1 kilohertz.
Yeah, between like 1 and 2.
Yeah. So that's the area where you might want to play with the vocals there or play with the guitars there and see, like maybe you can't get a great mix or whatever right away, and you might need to do that first, kind of just play with those areas. That's kind of where the vocals will fight with the guitars. I would say between like 1 and 2.
And then on an opposite end of the spectrum, but similar, if you were doing like an acoustic guitar with a clean vocal, I think you had mentioned yesterday just about if you have a really bright guitar, you might not want to get such a bright vocal, or vice versa. Is there a preference there?
For me, I think it's cool to, like, if you have a bright vocal, but like not as bright of an acoustic guitar, because the guitar has a lot of, obviously, like low end and body and mid range and all that stuff down there. And then when you have a vocal that's really clear, it just fills out the mix really well. But I mean, keep clarity in the guitar, but obviously keep that in mind. So it's like, all right, I don't want to just make this acoustic sound as clear as possible. I mean, while the acoustic might sound cool, as clear as possible by itself, as soon as you put that vocal on top, you might have some problems getting the presence and high end to shine through like you want it to without doing something really weird.
Okay,
so, yeah.
All right, they're really coming in now about the screaming. So a question came in from, let's see, I came as Josh, who wants to know, where should I boost my EQ in screaming?
Well, let's go to this is all case specific again, but maybe I can try to explain this better. What I'm looking for, let's go back to this. What I'm looking for is the presence in the vocals. Now, this is just like a relative, like kind of a rough graph, but this is kind of where you'll find these certain things. So you're gonna find your presence in your vocal, and what I would encourage you to do as screaming is to turn it up in this range and kind of just move the frequency back and forth till you find where it's most boosting the presence in that person's voice. In the mix, not by itself, in the mix. And whenever you find that, just leave it there and then turn it down, maybe all the way, and then go up or something. But that's how you can find the presence of the vocalist, whether it's singing or screaming. But this is kind of like where it's going to be. That presence is what's going to kind of cut through the mix a little bit in the high end. The air might not necessarily cut through at all. Sometimes, like whenever I first started mixing, I would boost the air up, like way up, and I thought that it sounded really awesome. Then I play the vocal in the mix, and like it sounded muddy. And I'm like, how is that possible? You know, like I just put all this high end in it. It's because that's not what cuts through. That's not what makes the vocal sound bright. Even though it is like the highest of high ends, that's not what makes a vocal sound bright. So that's why this is a really important graph. So, yeah, that should answer that question. You got to find it.
Yeah.
But this is a graph that's going to help you find it.
Perfect. So we have a number of other questions about this, but we do have about 10 minutes left in the session. Do you want to keep going with questions, or do you want to finish out your segment?
Let me mix group vocals. We all did a lot of hard work, right? Yesterday on group vocals. We deserve to sound big. Oops. Mixing group vocals, I think, is pretty fun. Now, it looks like we're all like pretty on beat here.
No! We're safe!
That sounds good, guys. Good job. Minus you, Cameron. Just playing. Anyway, so let's put, let's just put some quick fades on there for now. So this is what I like to do. Think of group vocals like this. What is the biggest sounding group ever? A lot of people. That's what the biggest group is. I know that sounds silly, but listen. Whenever you have an enormous group of people, and let's pretend we had 100 people in the room to record group vocals. That would be 2 mics, just so it would sound in stereo, on 100 people. So what we want to compress and affect is the raw sound of 100 people. So because of that reason, I do not put any kind of compression or effects or anything on the individual tracks at all. Because you have to think of it as it's all one track. It's all one group of people that is actually that large. So whenever you do something where you compress them all individually, you're kind of taking away the cool characteristics that these will have when they actually interact with each other under a single compressor. So that's how you have to think of it. And that's why I do what I do. You could put the AVOX choir that we were talking about on these group vocals, but I'm not going to. That would probably be the only thing that I would put on these vocals. So think about this also. Let's say they were in a big room. Now, this is going to help you think, where should the reverb go? The reverb should come from, if this was a real big group in a real huge room, the reverb would be there automatically going into the compressor. It would be on the microphones. It would be real. So you put the reverb first because you want the natural sound of the vocals to go through the reverb first.
No! What?
Now, that's a hall, which is weird. The biggest, what sounds bigger to me than a hall, which is kind of weird for group vocals, is actually a room. A big room sounds bigger than a hall whenever you're doing group vocals.
No! 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 We're safe!
There we go, just a little.
No! We're safe! No!
Okay, and I have these, what do we got here? I have these pan left and right. For some strange reason, they don't sound stereo.
No! We're safe!
Oh, it's because the speakers are to the side. Never mind. Okay, it's in stereo. Okay, so, and you just want to mix this in. So you got room, medium, large room. The larger the room, the longer the reverb, the more jumbled your group vocals are going to sound. And the less the reverb is going to actually stand out in the mix.
You just mentioned the panning on them. You've got 3 tracks. You have like one centered, one left, one right.
Center, left, right. Yeah.
Okay.
I always like to do an odd number so I can have one center. So like 5, I would do 5.
So if you had
3
5.
or 5,
Okay.
yeah. Just so one could be in the center. Just a little trick.
No! Where?
Let's see. Let's just use the old Pro Tools compressor.
No! We're safe! No! We're safe!
That's why. Okay, hold on. This is panning kind of weird. Oh.
No!
That was bizarre. Okay, never mind.
No! Where? Say!
There we go, there we go. Now, there are reverbs that sound more real than this, and I would highly recommend for this particular thing to maybe use a better reverb, like the other ones that I mentioned earlier. There's R-verb, there's true verb, there's a bunch of convolution reverbs, and those would all probably be a better choice. But just for this, we're going to use the built-in reverb.
No! Where? Say!
Now, just like a vocalist, well, we were all vocalists, obviously, in that, and there's a presence in there, and I'm going to find it right now. That's what you got to remember. Bring up the old EQ, little filter here.
No! Where? Say! No! Where? Say! No! Where? Say!
Cool, cool. So there you go. Now, that might be dangerous to mix by itself if you don't know what you're doing or why. Because you could put the hall reverb on there and think, well, there's a ton of reverb on that. That sounds good. But we're using the smaller room reverb so we can turn it up louder and so it's not jumbled. These are really important things when you're doing group vocals. You want like a big room reverb, compression, nothing super compressed. This is all. Yeah, nothing crazy. And then this is my favorite thing. I like putting a lot of presence in the group vocals. You can really hear all those individual voices a little bit better. Or at least I pretend like I can. Okay, the singing is the same. I mean, all these concepts, if you're understanding this, all these concepts are basically the same. You want to find the presence in the vocal, but that presence isn't going to sound right if you don't have your de-esser on there, which is making the S's sound really loud. So let's do, I want to do this chorus because it's like a big sounding chorus, and I use like reverb and delay on it. I just want to show you guys the settings for that. So this whole chorus, I'm just going to leave these on here, have this Pro Tools reverb, or Pro Tools compression.
I have come undone, desperate and out of touch, fall when I should run, words to reassemble. I have come undone.
So, okay, there's some backups in there. I'm going to mute that. So what do we got going on?
I have come undone, desperate and out of touch, fall when I should run, words to reassemble.
So we got a compressor on every channel, and then one also on the bus. I went a little bit aggressive on this bus because this song particularly only has these vocals tripled. Anytime these vocals happen, they're tripled, and it's every single word, and I kind of liked doing a tight compression on all of them to kind of make them sound a little bit unified, sort of like the group vocal idea. So that's why these are like this. And then just a touch of reverb and delay. I got my delay at about 27% there. Reverb's at 18. Let's check out this. Okay, so I got a pretty high pass here, 186. And again, these aren't really even numbers that I like memorize or think about. Like I just dial them in, and that's what I like. And that's what I encourage you guys to do. Dial in what sounds good for what you're doing. The presence of these vocals are a little bit higher. I kind of have a muffled voice, like when I'm singing for whatever reason, so This was at about 5.2, and got about 8 dB of that on these vocals. So here they are. With so, yeah.
Do you have the vocal line on those
Yes.
3? Okay.
Yeah, like always. I'm a vocal line addict. Yeah.
When you're doing 3 vocals, but you're basically doubling that main line, are they all pan centered or a couple
These
of
are
them
all-
slightly off?
No, these are all. The way this is set up is the way I thought of this was one vocal, but the lyrics weren't really written where you can sing from one to the next in a few parts, so they overlap.
Oh yeah, I didn't mean that section. I just meant you've got the main vocal line tripled.
Main vocal left and right, and then because of these vocals, because of the style of these vocals, I have them all at the same volume, and I'm kind of thinking so it's center, left, and right, and then they're all at the same volume. So these are almost kind of being treated like the group vocals were.
Okay. Are the left right subtle though, or are they hard
No,
panned?
hard
Hard
panned.
panned. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So you basically have like a wall of people singing this at you
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
audio field. Great.
And then I also have the backups there too. Here. So this is just kind of cleaner vocals, just so you could actually just hear the pitches a little bit.
I have come undone, desperate and out of touch. Fall when I should run, and I'm worth to reassemble.
That's great.
Thank you, thank you. Awesome. So, was it? Oh, I really want to do really quick, just because we were all involved. Let's go to the other group vocal part and fix that. Listen to you guys. All right, this won't take long at all, but hey, since we did it, let's make it sound good, right? So first thing we want here is the reverb, which is in a different spot. We want a room. We want some compression.
And Andrew, it's been coming through the chat rooms a little bit while you're doing this demo. I wonder if you can show us kind of an A/B of pre and post processing. A lot of people have been asking, Robbie in specific. We got your back, bro.
Yeah, I can. Hold on. What am I doing? Oh yeah, compression. Now, on group vocals, whenever people are singing and they're like holding out notes and stuff, you want to make sure that your release is longer. Otherwise, you'll get this really fast, fluttery sound. And it's specifically when it's group vocals or a choir, if you have to do choir. Strings, it's actually the same thing on strings. If you're going to do compression, you want the release to be longer. Otherwise, you're going to get a weird fluttering sound. Ooh, and on singing group vocals, I really like to put delay. So normally I would cut out, you know, those spots in between. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that great? Okay, so you just heard that processed, and I'll just do it unprocessed. Is that what they're asking for?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Now, this song has basically gotten the treatment that, you know, the last song had. So that's with all the stuff on it. Well, may as well take this off here too. Yeah, so it sounds a little bit sad.
There are a lot of things there that you can't hear that you did in
Right.
the earlier session.
Right, it all just disappears. So yeah, whenever you have all the right effects. Did you guys get questions answered? Did you guys learn what you needed to learn from this? I really hope so.
A lot to work on.
Yeah, there is a lot. There's a faster way, but whatever. All right. Yeah. Well, what do we got here? Let's talk about the key takeaways of this class. How's that sound? Vocals matter, guys. It literally only takes a vocal to make a #1 single. We heard all those, or remembered about all those other songs that just had the same chord progression. What sets them apart? That's the vocal. A lot of people think they have pop music figured out because they understand the chord progression. That's not what it is. It is the vocal. If you can write a vocal like that, hey, let's work together. But until then, I don't want to hear about it. All right, anyway, vocal recording is just as much mental as production know-how. You're working with people, you're going to be getting clients hopefully coming back, but you know, maybe not if you're not treating them right and giving them what they need, and they might not give you what you need in your sessions whenever you're trying to mix these things and make them sound as good as possible. We went over gear, plugins, mixing, etc. All just ways to execute your vision. That's really important. So that kind of makes me want to reiterate the settings thing. I mean, I know that you can watch this and kind of take away the compression settings and the EQ settings, but that might not guarantee that your thing is going to sound right. As you noticed, every single one of those songs, the settings were completely different. I mean, they were generally the same. That's why I made that little chart for you. It's just kind of just something easy to check. You know, get it in this range, and then find the presence of the vocal. Follow these steps in this course, and you'll be on your way to creating better sounding, successful songs. And that's it.
Awesome. Can't believe it's over. It's an incredible class. I think we should do some more songs, but we can't.
I don't have any.
All right, well, we do, yes, you do. We do have a ton of questions, but unfortunately we have run out of time. We so appreciate you guys participating and all of the great questions that you have asked throughout the last 2 days. So thank you so much to all of you. Also want to let you know about the upcoming workshop we have on the Music and Audio channel. Travis Casper Bauer is coming back for Advanced Logic Pro 10. He taught basic Logic Pro 10, and you guys were dying for an advanced course, so we are bringing him back for that. That is April 24th through 25th. And please check out the music and audio calendar to see all of the upcoming workshops that we have, as well as all of the ones that we've already had. So that's very cool. And I just want to remind everybody again to please go to the Facebook page of Creative Live, so facebook.com/creativelive. A couple posts down, there's a picture of Andrew, and there'll be a thank you card. You can go there and leave some comments for him or tell him how much you appreciated the workshop. And we have some comments here. Carlos Omar said, wow, recording rock vocals with Andrew Wade is just incredible. I got so much info and terms. Thank you, Creative Live and Andrew Wade, for this workshop. Greetings from Venezuela. And then DX Val said, thank you very much, Mr. Wade. I'm learning a lot from your class. Cheers from Mexico. And then Slamantha, who's been in the workshop all the last couple days, and she's a regular here in the audio channel, says, already putting some of this info to use in a new song. Cool. So that's what we like to hear. That's why they're watching, and they're making it happen. So cheers.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of feedback is amazing. And really, I mean, it kind of gives you a feeling of what the course is itself. This is, as Andrew was mentioning today, in his talk about compression, you really do need either this device or a Jeff to be able to turn the knobs for you. And it kind of seems to me like Creative Live is providing the Jeff, and Andrew is the Jeff turning the knobs for you and giving you that pretty much all the time. And no matter what, you always need to rely on those kinds of little pieces to help you kind of get from here to there. I, for one, have been very Jeffed out. I love all of the information that I've been seeing today. I don't know about you guys, but it's been fantastic. World class. Thank you so much, Andrew.
No problem.
Yeah, so from all of us here at Creative Live, thank you, Andrew Wade. Thank you to the studio and the online audience. And thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Tony.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. Well, just so you know, you can purchase anytime access of this class by clicking the buy button beneath the screen you're watching. And time is running out. We are at the end of the day. If you've decided that this course is something that you want to keep, and just so you know, all of Andrew's keynote, all of this presentation, the slides that he's been going through are included with the purchase of the course. So the slide that he just put up that said all the answers are in that slide, if you need that slide, purchase the course now. It's normally $99. You can get it for $79 if you purchase it now. And if you guys have decided to do that, then go ahead and do that. And I think it's cool that you're including your keynote, Andrew. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All right. Well, it has been an incredible workshop. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you guys on the next workshop. That's a wrap.